Hello, good evening, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live. Obviously, if you're picking this up at a later date on an afternoon or an evening, good evening or good afternoon to you as well. Thank you so much for choosing to watch another Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast with me, your host Owen, and of course, I'm joined from the other side of the pond or the Atlantic. For those of you who are not sure what the pond is, by Victoria. Victoria, how are you doing?
I'm so good, Owen. I hope you guys can hear me better tonight. I've got the headphones in, so please let me know in the chat how the feedback is for you guys on that. But other than that, I'm doing great. I've been nice and busy. I'm having a little bit of withdrawals from no football going on, which I'm sure I've seen other people in the chat saying that they're also having these withdrawals. But it's been really good. It's been busy. It's been nice here in Canada and lots of fun stuff going on. How's everything going with you, Owen?
Yeah, all good. Just very busy day, very busy weekend, busy week at work, and then obviously back to having had a weekend off, which was nice, and spend time with my partner and her kids, and then spend time with my children as well. So it's been a busy few days recently. And Victoria, I don't know if everyone caught on Facebook and on Instagram the other day your live video that you did on Saturday, was it? Or yeah, Saturday, I think it was. Do you want to just tell us a little
Oh,
bit about
yeah.
that? It was looked a
Sure.
fantastic occasion.
Of course. Yeah. So we actually have an orange walk, believe it or not, here in the Toronto area. I say here in the Toronto area because I'm not from Toronto, but we found it online. It's something that they do every year. Now, this was the 201st walk, which is super exciting. They had many different clubs come out to it. Many different people come out to it to watch. We actually even seen people come out of their houses and stop other people that were following, like myself and my mom, and say, like, thank goodness there's a real parade that seems to be going on around to Toronto, different things that you can see and do. And it was amazing. So I applaud everybody that walked in the Orange Walk. There was about an hour. So that's a long time for some people. But one of the things that I really did enjoy, because of course there's all ages. I seen tiny little kids with their mom and dad walking. I seen a lot of people that were quite older. There was one gentleman that he must have been about like 98, and he was out there walking in it, which was fantastic. But one of the great things that they had is they had this big bus at the very end of the parade kind of following it along. So if somebody really did need to take a break, if their knees got sore or something like that, and they could only walk as far as they could, they had an opportunity to go and kind of sit in the bus, because they really done an absolutely fantastic job, every single person that was participating. If you got a chance to see it, it is actually up on my Instagram, which is Victoria's Secret 23. If you guys know about that name, I can explain that later, but it is up there. So if you want to check that out, you can. But everyone done an amazing job, and we're so excited always to go to an Orange Walk. I'm always excited to support my dad. I think he does amazing. And next year, we're really excited because there is always a possibility that we're going to be in the UK for it, and maybe traveling somewhere else to experience it as well. So, did you get a
Absolutely.
chance to see any Orange Walks on?
So just us watched yours on the Instagram. It was fantastic, and gotta say your dad looked very smart in his with his
Thank
sash and
you.
in his suit. It looked absolutely fantastic. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Just wanted to mention that because I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And guys, go and check it out on Instagram, on Victoria's Instagram. Well worth a watch, and obviously fun, to see so many people even on the other side of the Atlantic participating is absolutely
Mhm.
superb. So, Victoria, we've got a few people already in the live chat. So we've got
I see
RFC
that.
56, Evening Blue Noses. He says, I've heard some saying Panzo isn't good enough. I've not seen him. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Hopefully, we get a better winger than Matondo and Wright and another striker. We have to remember we can't gamble on the Roof's fitness. I also think Cifuentes will join. We've got Malky in the live chat as well. Says, good evening to everyone. Saying hello to everyone. We've got Scott05 says Cholak will stay, hopefully, and Davis. Go, please, to Kamara, Wright, McLaughlin. Victoria, I'm sorry about this. Haraji, Barisic, and Lundstrom. Scott, you've just made her cry.
Podcast done.
Evening, everyone. Another warm day here. It's rained here, Sneaky Bear. Can't wait for the football to start. Really have withdrawals. Yeah. I don't know whether you saw, by the way, on that note, Victoria, about withdrawals. Did you see Colin Stewart's tweet that went out earlier about the fact that he was saying that the new Barbie film looks funny? I'm starting to worry about our friend Colin, that he's got really serious withdrawals if he's thinking Barbie's worth watching.
I know, but hey, you know what? I have to agree with them. Maybe it's just me, but I've heard great things about it, and I also wanted to see because I heard it's really funny. But I know what you guys mean. Major withdrawals about having no football right now, but it is nice to see the guys back in training for it. So that means it's just around the corner. We have some friendlies that are coming up, which is a lot of fun. I wish I was there for it, but I know that some of you guys will be. So there's a lot to come, which is really, really nice. But the waiting periods is brutal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Snecky Bear says in the live chat, Snecky Bear, obviously one of our fantastic members. Remember, you can join the channel just for 99 for there's 99p. Show your support if you want to. You don't have to. The content is still free. Just to re-emphasize that here on the channel, Victoria and I will bring you free content. We're not going to start charging you for content. You know, we are a fan-driven channel that is here for you, the fans, and that's why we do this. So, Victoria, he says, Victoria, we were going to come over for 2020 over there, but could not because of COVID, apparently. So, missed out on coming over.
Yeah, that you know what, that definitely happens. But thankfully, COVID is now over. Hopefully, it's never coming back. Touch wood. Hopefully, it's never coming back. But yeah, you guys are more than welcome to come over anytime to join like the Orange Walk stuff. I'm sure they're going to have it every year. They actually used to have it in like the downtown Toronto area, and then they moved it this year. I think it was like close to like I think it was the Danforth. Am I right, Mom, with that one? Yeah, the Danforth. That's what it was. I'm terrible with street names. But yeah, it was right on the Danforth this year, which is really exciting. But yeah, you're always welcome to come over. And next year I'm coming to you guys.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, so fantastic. Loads of people in the live chat. I know it's a very busy night for Rangers podcast, so thank you to everyone who's come across and joined us. We have got some questions to which we will be answering in a moment that people have posted on my community post that I put out there. But if you've got any other questions, you know, into that you want answering about Rangers, then please obviously bring them up in the live chat. Victoria and I will do our best to answer them. So let's start with our first question that we had in the live chat, which was from Rangers Bears, I think it is. Is Kieran Dowell being overlooked when the new signings have been talked about? This guy is very talented. Victoria, so what in terms of Kieran Dowell? I mean, I know that sort of you know, the whole situation is that there's a lot of press, obviously, around Dessers, around Lammers, around the signing of Seema, around the signing of Butland, obviously. Because Kieran was signed right back at the very start, wasn't he? You know, I think it was first unveiled during the Hearts game, wasn't it? The end of last season. He's kind of, I don't know, been a little bit forgotten about. Do you think that's fair? Or is he still very much in, you know, in your thoughts, for example? So what's your take on that question?
So I don't think he's being overlooked. I think he'll definitely get a chance to play. He's somebody that I think could be a great asset to Rangers, but that goes for every other player. It's one of those things that if you want something bad enough, you're willing to work and make it happen. And no matter what player you are or whereabouts you are in Rangers, every position you have to be good at. So if you're that good, Rangers will accept you on there. So I don't think there's any overlooking going on. I think he'll definitely get an opportunity and get a chance, but it all depends how your performance is. And like I said, this is a season and a team that we're hopefully going to be going into that are going to win 56. You know what I mean? So we can't be taking players that are kind of like a little bit more. I'm not saying he's amateur here. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying on that bridge that he's not ready to make that big leap yet. You have to take the players that are ready for that. So no, I don't think he's overlooked like at all, but he's definitely going to get a chance in my eyes. Maybe not just yet, but he definitely will get a chance because he is a good player and he is deserving of a chance. So is every other player, to be honest, as long as they're willing to make it happen and be at the same level that the first team actually is at.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. You know, I think he is a very talented player, very talented, skillful player, and I think he has perhaps fallen out of the press a little bit just because of all the fact that it's been an insanely busy summer for Rangers, hasn't it? Just all the signings that have been made and all the talent that has been brought into the club, and the fact that we're still talking. I mean, Kenny Miller was talking today in the media about the fact that he thinks there's at least another 4 to come through the door. He thinks 10 signings is the magic number for Rangers this summer, which would be incredible turnover of players. But no, Kieran Dowell is a very talented guy. I've seen some of his tape for Wigan, for Norwich. he looks very, very good. And I do watch some Championship football over here in the UK, over in England, and Norwich fans speak very, very highly of Kieran Dowell. And to be honest with you, they were more gutted to lose Dowell than they were Cantwell. And we've seen how well Cantwell's played, how talented he is. So if that's any reflection on what we're getting in Dowell, that's got to be great news, hasn't it? Absolutely great news for the club. Question here from a new name in the live chat, not seen before. Welcome, Hugster 0809. It says, hi, Owen and Victoria. What new signing excites you the most? Victoria, I'll let you have a little think about that. I think for me, Hugster, the signing that excites me the most is the signing of Dujon Sterling. I think he is a quality young player. I think the fact that he can cover anywhere at the back, the fact that he can play right back, left back, he's good going forward, he's good defending. He's certainly someone who excites me a great deal. I think he is someone as well who long term is our replacement for James Tavernier. That may be sacrilegious to say that because Tav is such a fundamental part of our club. But Tav, for me, is at that age now where he's going to have to start taking more of a backward step because 31, 32, we are going to have to start thinking about succession planning for him. And Dujon Sterling looks to be a really quality player and a long-term signing for us. So Dujon is certainly someone who excites me very much. All the others do as well, but Dujon Sterling certainly excites me a great deal. Victoria, who's your signing that excites you the most?
So I would say he's definitely one of them. I think he's going to be a great asset to Rangers. But somebody that I've really been thinking about is Dessers, because he's obviously one of our latest ones. And I've done a little bit of research on him, and not just from a player perspective, but also from a more personal perspective of what other people are saying about him. So you get the opinions of really everybody. I think he's going to be a great asset to the team. But then again, I'm never one to jump on board right away. I always think actions speak louder than words. So it all depends on how they play on the pitch. But he's definitely one that I'm gonna keep an eye out for. Because he's Dessers. So why not, right? He has a great opportunity to be fantastic, but it all depends. Is he gonna vibe well with the team? That's always my question. And is he gonna be able to play well with the team? Because it's all about that communication and making sure that, as we've seen in past Rangers players, some of them kind of hog the ball and then they try and take these shots at the goal themselves and then they miss. So is he going to be a team player that's going to actually share the ball a little bit and do what's best for the team and not always best for himself? So I'm very, very curious about what's going to happen this season when they actually get out on the pitch and really play for what is going to be our season.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Blue Nose John has a question here. It says, is anyone thinking that Dowell and Lammers are going to be our star men? So we've kind of touched on Dowell a little bit, with the first question there, Blue Nose, but certainly talking about Lammers, I think Sam Lammers is someone who has sort of come in under the radar. He's had a couple of poor seasons in Italy with Empoli and Samp, but those two are teams that were I watched Serie A football, and trust me, guys, Sampdoria stank Serie A out last season. They were absolutely awful. And the way that they use Lammers as well. Look, I read a bit about how he sort of player he is. He's more a 10. He likes to drop off. He likes to be a creative player. Well, the way they played him was they would pump long balls over the top for him to try and run onto and chase after into corners, which is just not his game at all. And he really did suffer in that system that they use. So he does seem to be a very creative talent, a very promising talent, and I think he's one of those players like Cantwell that Michael Beale kind of wants to polish off and remold and change and bring back. Cantwell came in and he was certainly talked down about a bit by a number of Norwich fans, for example. But I think Lammers, it's very much the same. So I've got high hopes for him. I certainly hope he can do very well for us, and he certainly looks to have some good skill. I know it's just training, but if anyone saw the goal that he scored in training today, it's on Twitter at the moment. A fantastic finish. Have a look at that if you haven't. I think it's on the Rangers account that I saw it. So yeah, definitely for me, Blue Nose, he could be one of the start men this year. Victoria, what's your take on Sam Lammers?
Yeah, so Lammers is one of those ones that I've heard a little bit of both about. I personally think the guy's been on the wrong team for quite a while. So if he gets a chance to come on to Rangers and play to his best of the ability and learn maybe a different way. Rangers are all about figuring out a way that works best for you and then improving on that. Because a football player should be able to play anywhere on the pitch. with any sort of strength that he has, including other people's strengths. That's just in my eyes. And I just think the guy has been on the wrong team, but I think he has a great mindset about this season. He knows what's at stake and he should be able to achieve that. But then again, same as before, the actions speak louder than words. So you never know what could happen, but always give the guy a chance because you never know. Like I said, it could have just been the wrong team all along. But
Absolutely, yeah.
I think he could be good.
Absolutely, I think he could be as well. Huckster0809 says, "Cheers, guys! For me, this is the most exciting summer for us since Gerard came in the door in 2018." Snecky Bear says in the live chat, "I'm sure Michael Beale has a hit list when he has the funds to go ahead and have to wait and see how these guys settle in." I have heard talk that there'll be no further any further signings now must be funded by some sales. That's what I have heard reading in the media over the last couple of days. Got John Lammy saying, "Evening, Owen and Victoria and the troops" in the comments. Got Jay says, "Ridvan will be like a new signing, mate. Hardly seen him last season. Last few games, same with Lawrence." Obviously, we're talking about Tom Lawrence, who is on track. Guys, check out the video I dropped earlier about the fitness update. Apparently, Lawrence is on track for the start of the season, as is Connor Goldson as well, which is great news. What we've got, Jay, if you had an offer come in, I think that's obviously the TAV question. Victoria, just a question aside here. There's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, in the media about Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian money. And I've made it clear personally, I would never go to that country for a lot of reasons, which I don't want to talk about on a podcast because it's political. But one of the questions that keeps coming up is TAV to Saudi Arabia. Steven Gerrard wants his captain back. He wants TAV. Do you think? Let try and phrase this the right way. Would you sell TAV for the right amount of money, or do you think he's just too valuable to be sold?
See, that's such a hard one because I love TAV. I think he's fantastic. But I mean, if you're coming up with a check for 25 million and pointing it at Rangers and say, "Here you go, give us TAV," what are you going to do? Are you going to say no? Of course, I don't think they're going to say no to that. But I mean, you kind of have to play the game a little bit. If they're going to come at us and say, "Hey, we want TAV for this amount of money," when you think about the way that the Saudis do things, the same way that they done it with Stevie G, I'm pretty sure he decline the offer at first, Owen?
He did initially decline it, yeah.
Exactly. So when you think about it going that way, if they're going to come at us and they're going to say, "Hey, we want TAV, here's this amount of money," Rangers should say no, because you know that the Saudis are going to come back and they're going to say, "Here's a little bit more money. Here's a little bit more money," because we all know money talks. There's a thing that I read about Stevie G earlier about his 3 reasons of why he actually said yes to that deal. Money was never mentioned in it. Of course, it's not going to be mentioned in it, but can you imagine the amount of money that after he said no, that the Saudis threw at him to make him want to come there? Money talks. So do I want to see TAV go? Absolutely not. I don't know how you guys feel. I'd love to know in the chat what you guys think about this situation. If you want to see TAV go or not, and what amount of money you'd want to see for him if he was to go there. But I think it's crazy. But like I said, if the right amount of money is there for you, then how could they say no? You know what I mean? It's about making money. But do I think he should go? No. Just to prove a point. They can't get CVG and TAV. We only get one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't look. I know he gets a lot of criticism for his defending, and there's a lot of people who criticize him. I like TAV personally. I think he's got a lot going for him. And if you go back to that Parkhead game, he kind of single-handedly played Celtic himself on that day, and he scored twice. That fantastic free kick, the header, and he was one of the few players that actually was putting it in that game. So I can't see him going. I think he said himself he wants to end his career at Rangers. So I don't think, and it could all be press. We know it could all be, as Malky says in the live chat, it's all rubbish, but it could all be rubbish, as any of these speculation articles are. Absolutely.
I totally agree with you.
Nicholas Moore makes a really good point here in the live chat. Can't wait to see Tom Lawrence back. And I've got to make that. Tom's going to be great to have him back. He'll be like a new signing. He played 5 games last season, didn't he? So, Victoria, are you looking forward to seeing Tom back?
Absolutely. I actually have a friend called David, and his dad's name is actually Tom Lawrence. And I found it quite funny. So every time that Tom would come up, Tom Lawrence, the actual football player, would come up on the screen. I always message my friend, say, "Oh, your dad's up there," making a joke about it. But I said it because he is such a great player, and I'm excited to see what he's actually going to do for Rangers, because he's someone that I was really enjoying watching until unfortunately he couldn't play anymore. So like you guys are saying, it is going to be like a new signing for us. I think similar to the way that I know I'm going to bring it up again, but the way that we looked at Hadji, because he was off for so long, the training that goes into that, the big comeback that happens, these are like almost like new players. So I'm excited to see what Lawrence does. And I think he's going to be probably quite a big asset to this season. I mean, I'm just saying that now, but I really truly think he's going to be great. I'm very curious to know what his first game is going to be.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and Blue Nose John says Rangers need to be self-sustainable. If we get a very good offer for Tav, we should take it. Yeah, I think that is the drive, isn't it? We are into this trading model, and the fact we do have to sell players to keep money coming into the club. We're not in the same position we were with when Souness was in charge in the 80s and the early 90s, where we could just have any player we wanted and it didn't matter. You know, those days when I started supporting Rangers, you know, when we went out and we got Chris Woods, we got Terry Butcher, Graham Roberts, Richard Goff came into the club, Terry Hurlock, Gary Stevens. We just seemed to sign Mark Haitley. We just seemed to sign whoever we wanted. And these were top international. These were guys at the peak of their career and top internationals. You know, unfortunately, that's not going to happen now with the financial state of Scottish football and the financial position that we're in as a club as well, are we? So that I think, you know, and as RFC 56 says, we are pretty hopeless at the moment at selling our older players and moving them on for a decent profit. Just that update on, if you haven't seen it already, this was the update that Michael Beale said about the injured players. He said that Connor is on schedule. He will make the start of the season if everything goes to plan right now. Kemar will join our group in Germany next week. He just needed a few more days after his operation. By the time we're back from Germany, Tom Lawrence will start training with the group as well. In terms of injuries, the only ones we have hanging over us from last season are Connor, Tom and Kemar, but Kemar will be back shortly. So all very positive news there, Victoria, on the injury front.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And there's some big questions to come, especially about some players. So I'm excited to answer those ones.
Let's get the next question. And so, do you know what? This guy, I really hope that this is actually his name, because if it is an awesome name. I would love to be called that. That's just a fantastic name, Ragnar Wolfson. I love that name. Fantastic.
It's
I
a
get
strong
the
name.
impression it might be some Viking thing, but oh well. So he asks, why is Rangers qualifying for the UCL, which is the UEFA Champions League, so important this year? So Victoria, what do you think? Why is it, in your opinion, is it vitally important that we actually qualify for the group stages?
I think so, because that's a prestige thing to do if you're able to do that, and especially if you're able to make it to the winning of the league, because that's an easy, what, like 85 million or something like that. So if we're able to do stuff like that, if we're able to get into that league, we're also going to be looking at, like you spoke about earlier, remember those attractive players that you were speaking about? We can bring players like that back into Rangers if we're starting to qualify for that. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just my personal opinion, is if we get into bigger games like that, we can attract more players, maybe even for next season.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's about prestige, it's about money. And I think for too long now, obviously, you know, it's been a long road back, hasn't it? It's been to quote
Oh,
Stuart
yeah.
Hayes player, it's been a long journey back. And they've had all that time where they've had a chance to dominate Scottish football. They've had it all their own way for a number of years. The time it took us to get back, they've been playing Champions League football. They've been playing, you know, in the Europe's top competition and accruing vast sums of money from it. The other situation is there's two other things that make it, I think, really important this year. Number one is the fact that the Champions League format changes next season. I haven't got my head fully around how it changes, but it's probably going to be one massive league, and then you're randomly picked to place so many teams out of that league, and then the top few go through to the knockout stages. So, you know, this is the last year of this format. This chances for us to get into a group stage, to make X amount, 50, 60, 70, 80 million, depending on TV revenue. And as a club, we need that money. We need to start bringing that money in to and look, I hate talking about them but they do make more money than us. They have got more income than us at this moment in time. And if we're going to truly catch them, pass them, and keep them in our slipstream and keep them behind us, we need to get that money. The second reason is Rangers need to do well in Europe this season, because next season there's a risk that Scotland could lose its 2 Champions League places. So at the present moment in time, because of what Rangers did with the Europa League and building the coefficient for Scotland, Scotland has continues to have 2 Champions League places. If Rangers were to fail to qualify for the group stages, there's a risk that second Champions League place could be given to another country like Belgium. I can't remember the list. There was a list I read the other day of other countries that could get that second Champions League place, and Scotland would therefore go back down to 1 Champions League place. So it's also about maintaining that, because if in the hopefully unlikely event that they were to win the league again at a future date, and we were to finish second, we do still want that Champions League football place, don't we? We still want that place in the Champions League, because it's money. It's a lot of money at the end of the day, and we do need it. And like you said as well, Victoria, it's about prestige. If you play Champions League football, players want to come and play for you because they want to play in Europe's top competition. And the other thing, I suppose, as well on that about the 2 places is it also automatically keeps us in a situation where the Scotland's and don't have to go through to the qualifiers as well. So we want to be in a position where when we win the league next season, we qualify automatically for the group stage, and we haven't got to worry about qualifiers. And that's perhaps getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we are going to get 56 next season. Let's just take it that way.
Absolutely, there's no choice.
Absolutely. Blue Nose John says we're behind the Black Ball every season, as Celtic have 10,000 more seats than us. That's why we need UCL money. Malky says it's vital we do well in all tournaments. I agree. Maybe for next season, let's concentrate on the league and Scottish this year, says Stecky Bear. It's vital we take half the Champions League money and make the Mankey mob don't get it all. It's a must, says Stuart. Obviously, comments about Celtic there. Do you think it'd be better if we went into the Europa League, as coefficient will be really important to qualify this club for the Club World Cup? We'll touch on that in a minute. Subside, definitely. Warren Smith says we need the coefficient points to seal the World Club Championship place 2, which is another thing that's coming up in 2024, 2025, I think it is. Now we have to get the Champions League money, says Stuart. This is Subside says, obviously, don't you think it'd be better if we went to Europa League? Now, I think what you got to remember is the fact that if we qualify for the Champions League, when we finish 3rd in the group, which is entirely possible, and you don't progress, you've got the fans, you can drop down into Europa League. So you kind of get that double jeopardy kind of thing, don't you, Victoria? So there is that hope, isn't there as well?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. But I think we'll have to remember that the Champions League is very important. There's a lot of money at stake there as well. So go for what we can and take each game as it comes. That's all I can say. You have to finish one game and do it well to get to the next one, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And RFC 56 in the live chat says we've still got a lot of work to do in the transfer market this summer. Yeah, we have. It's not just the buying of players, it's also the shipping out and the selling on of players, I think, as well. As the squad's 35 at the moment, and Michael Beale did say that he wants to trim the squad to 24, 25 players. So that still it looks like there's a lot of players to go out the door, doesn't it, Victoria?
It does, and it makes me very, very nervous thinking about that, and thinking about who he's thinking of bringing out the door. But you know what? No matter what they do, we have to trust, because this is their job. They're supposedly the experts in this situation for them. So we have to trust that they know what they're doing. They know the team that they're building, who has certain strength and who doesn't have certain strength. But when it comes down to, if you want something bad enough as a player, you got to make it happen. You got to show that you want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, other people notice it. And that's how you kind of go towards the exit. Because like we spoke about, 56 has to be ours this season. We're not going into the season saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we will win this. Maybe we'll win this one. Oh, we might not win this one. No, we're going in to win everything. And that's just the way that it has to be. So they're building this fantastic team. And unfortunately, some players do have to go. I don't know who. I'm hoping it's not one certain player. But you know what? You never know. You never know what happens. It is football. And I always feel that Rangers also enjoy the aspect of surprise, almost making sure that other teams don't always know what they're doing, so they can't follow suit in certain ways. So it's always very interesting. There's, I'm sure, a lot of more stuff to happen this summer, but the quicker we get football back, the better.
Absolutely, 100%. Clark Little asked in the live chat, which I think couldn't be have answered, which TV is showing the Newcastle game, the pre-season on the testimonial for Alan McGregor. It is actually on Rangers TV. You can get that game, and or if you live in Canada, you can get it another way apparently, which I'm not going to mention. But there is another way, isn't there, Victoria, in Canada to get hold of it?
There definitely is, but I watch it on Rangers TV.
You
And
do.
no, that's actually the God's honest truth. I do watch it on Rangers TV, and I'm so excited. That's one game that I wish I was there for because I've grown up with him. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate everything that he's done for Rangers, and I'm so jealous of all of you guys that get to go. I'll be watching my Twitter and stuff, seeing your pictures that you're posting and everything, but it's going to be an emotional game. It's going to be a great game, but God, we're going to miss him for sure.
Absolutely, 100%. Right, okay, so let's move on to our next question, which is from Daniel Frew. It says, is there a route for younger players getting into the first team squad? It would appear more difficult now with the withdrawal of the Rangers B team. That's obviously the news that Rangers B team dropped out of the Lowland League due to a couple of reasons. One, the refusal of the Conference League, and also the fact that you can't, Rangers B, Celtic B, Hearts B can't be promoted from the Lowland Leagues. The players will have fewer chances now, surely, or are there other plans in place for competitive games? So let's deal with the first question there, Victoria. Do you think that we will see some of the younger players get a chance this season, or do you think with all these new signings coming in, their chances could be diminished?
No, you know what? I think any football player is a football player, no matter at what capacity you're at, whether you're a pro player that's been out there in the pro league for quite a while, or if you're someone that's on a B team or is a younger player. Let's see these like these 16, 17-year-olds that we see coming out. If you're good enough, they'll let you come and play for Rangers. That's what it comes down to, is pure talent, not whether you've been on this massive team for so long. And Rangers, I think we spoke about this before, but they want people to come into their squad that are going to progress to be in the big team, because they're helping develop these younger players as well. And of course, they can go out on loan to other places, but all these players want to play for Rangers. But it comes down to making sure that, I guess, that they can be up to the same standards no matter where you come from. And there's always going to be a way to make that happen. If you want something bad enough, you're going to make it happen, right? So if these younger players do want to play for that, then they just have to talk to the right people and let them know, this is my vision going forward. How do I get there? And Rangers, of course, they want to see them go forward. They want to see part of their own develop throughout the system and make it to the big team. That's just my opinion on it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with the younger players kind of as well, it's if they're good enough, they'll make it, they'll get there. And you've got to there's always a danger that, you get behind certain young players coming through just because they are Rangers fans or they've come through our system and you think, well, they should be given an opportunity. I think if they're good enough, they'll force their way in and they'll force their way up into the team. It's happened in the past at Rangers. It happens in the past. It happens all over Scotland and in England at the moment. The young players come through and they force their way in and they force out other players. You've also got to think about the fact that there is a weight of games coming this season. You've got the Viaplay League Cup games, you've got the Scottish FA Cup games, you've got hopefully Champions League games or Europa League games, league games. There's a lot of football to be played. And football these days is fast, it's intense, it's physical. And the SPFL is quite unlike anything else, I think, in terms of its physicality. And I had this chat with Adam Thornton the other night on the podcast. And, we both said that, Scotland and the Old Firm in particular is not like anything else you find in Europe. It is just so physical, so full on, so 1 million miles an hour, that the wear and tear on players is high. So I think there will be a chance for the players, if they're good enough, to get through. And I was reading today about Bailey Rice. Obviously, Bailey's out apparently in Germany, so I believe, with the first team squad. And there's definitely talk of Bailey getting some opportunity this year because he is seen as being so substantially talented and such a skillful guy. And he had an opportunity last year against Livy after he impressed for Scotland under 21s. He didn't look out of place at all for a 16-year-old lad. He just did not look out of place. So I think there's every chance that some of these younger players, like Bailey Rice, for example, like Zach Lovelace, who did well for England under 17s this summer in their European Championships, will get an opportunity to impress. In terms of that was the second part of the question that was asked about what other competitive games. I think obviously there is the concern there. There is the under-21 leagues and things like that. There is no B team. I have heard rumours that they are looking into chances of getting more of those. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a European competition where there's a European games between the big European teams. So like Liverpool will play Rangers under 21s, and so will Manchester United, and so will Barcelona. They are apparently looking into ways they can get more games with the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid, their youth teams. And I think that will force up standards playing, because Victoria, some of the English under 21 teams are as expensive as some of I don't know, Manchester United's under 21 team is probably as expensive on paper as Celtic or Rangers team, to be honest with you. They spend so much money on youth players down south because they've just got so much money. So that will help push up standards, certainly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I was just about to back you there. They do have so much money, so they're able to do stuff like that. And you know what? Rangers used to be there. They used to have lots of money and stuff like that, but it's just working our way back up through the system, doing it the right way, and we will be back on top. Don't worry, we got this.
Absolutely. Can't have another injury hit season this season again. That's the most important thing this season, keeping the players fit. And I think Absolutely. Stuart and Victoria, I think probably what might actually come as one of our best signings this summer. That's getting Dr. Mark Waller back to Rangers. The guy was fantastic during the 55 season. He seems to have had a track record of keeping players fit, and he was here during 55. And Kamar Roof played a lot of games that season and was the top scorer, so he must have done something right that season if he managed to keep Kamar Roof fit for that many games. So I don't know, Mark. I don't know loads about the guy, but I certainly know that he is someone who has got a track record of getting the medical side of football and the strength and performance side of football right. So for me, that could be one of the best signings this summer. Victoria, what's your opinion on that one?
You know what? I kind of agree with you. I think it'd be fantastic to have him back. It's important to have great people on the pitch, of course, because that's who we see, that's who we support every week. But it's also important to have great people behind the scenes, people that are taking care of the players, the people that we really don't see a lot of, to be honest. And those are also really important assets to have. So let's hope he can work his magic. And I agree, not a lot of injuries this season. And if we do see some sort of injury possibly coming, take the player off. Don't let it get to that stage. You know what I mean? I think that's really important, to be a little bit more proactive. Hopefully that will happen this season. If not, we'll have someone great to take care of them.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think you've got a situation as well where we do seem to have an awful... I know the squad's going to be trimmed 24, 25, but there seems to be a lot more quality now in different positions. And I know I was doing a team the other day, and I kind of forgot I forgot Dowell, I forgot Seema. There seems to be a lot more talent now. Even taking the back four, you're starting back four, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Ridvan, probably, right? But you've got behind them Devine, Leon King, Ben Davis, and Borna Barisic if he remains at the club. If not, you've got Dujon Sterling can also play left back as well. So you've got, for me, a lot of quality there. So I think what could help reduce the injuries as well is there'll be some more rotation of players this year. So it won't be just the same old players playing week in, week out. So I think that may also help, because wear and tear is a massive, massive thing on, for me, on players, especially in the modern game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I was just reading a comment there from Juicy Bear Gaming. I don't know if you see it there in the chat. Oh, and it's one of the recent ones. There it is. He basically said, he or her, whoever it is, that they ran Morales into the ground and he was never the same. I kind of agree with you, because they had him on a lot, and you did start to notice a massive, massive difference. I don't know if that was the aspect that was in his mindset, about why he kind of wasn't the same after that. I don't know if it came down to basically him. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that in the background or not. I was trying to make sure you didn't. There's a little beeping going on.
Okay.
But basically with Morales, he was the type of player that started out great, and they did play him an awful lot. But then again, he's also a football player that you should be able to take that kind of pressure. that's your job. You're not gonna half-ass it, as they like to say over here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
hopefully they won't do that with all the players. We have lots of great players that are coming in that should be able to do different positions, and help each other out, so that doesn't happen. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I'd also keep an eye out for it.
Absolutely. Sean Maxwell makes an interesting point, asking an interesting question in the live chat, and he says, "Could Rangers B not join the English National League?" He says because Welsh teams are in it. So I think he's talking obviously about Cardiff, Swansea play in the English leagues. They play both in the Championship next season, although they have both played Premier League football. And I think there is I think is it Merth I think play. There's another Welsh team certainly plays lower down the football pyramid. I think it's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea. Definitely a fantastic idea, Sean. But I don't see the English FA allowing it to happen, because then you've kind of got a situation where Rangers and Celtic might start arguing. Well, if that's the case, why are we not allowed to come and play in the Premier League? And we all know, I think there is a massive movement amongst Premier League clubs not to allow the old firm to come and play in England in the English Premier League. And I think it may set a dangerous precedent that they may then have I mean, I might be completely talking out the top of my head here, of course, but I just think that they're determined to keep us out. They won't want us in. Perhaps maybe even Rangers say don't want to play in England. I don't know, but there's a lot more money down there, and I think if we were ever to go down there, we would make a fortune, and I think we would be one of the top clubs within a couple of years. We'd be up there competing for the title. But I think, as brilliant an idea as it is, Sean, I just can't see the English FA agreeing to it at all. Victoria, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't really see it happening. I'm in total agreement with you. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't. I think it's too dangerous. With, like I said, there's been a lot of years where there's been this discussion of should it Rangers and Celtic play in the Premier League? You know, Swansea and Cardiff are allowed to play in, and
Yeah.
and I know you've got the differences between Wales as a country and Scotland as a country. That Scotland's much more of a country than Wales is. I've just offended Welsh people, I know, but I am part Welsh, guys, just to get that over. But it's a really complicated one. That's a podcast. I think that's a whole podcast on itself. That one. I'll look into that. I certainly might
really
raise that
is.
as a question on the pod. Warren Smith says,
controversial one.
Absolutely. Stay away from politics. The time to judge Beale is after we've played all others twice in the league. If the title is not lost, if we lose the old firm.
Yeah, I actually agree with what Warren says there as well. But you know what? See, when it comes down to the old firm, it's a pride thing. So no matter if it's important for us to win it or not to win it for the points, it does come down to it's a pride thing. So I know that almost every Rangers supporter that's maybe watching this right now, we all know that we want to beat them no matter what. Even if it was in a game that wasn't so important, you want to beat them, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Just quickly whipping a few comments upon the screen there. Okay, so let's look at our last question that we've had, which is from, I think actually was from Warren himself. Here we go, from Warren Smith 3070, who's had a fair few good comments and questions in the live chat tonight. It says, if Rangers standards includes being the top club in Scotland with a large haul of trophies to prove it, then why is it likely they're about to go a third season running of enduring the farce of bringing more money from the transfer market than we spend? Now, I think this is alluding to the fact that obviously we've spent money to this point, but the talk is that we're going to now start to sell to bring in more money. Victoria, what was your take on that question?
So this question, it kind of stumped me a little bit. I had to stop and really, really think about it. So after a little bit of thought, this is what I came up with, and I wrote it down because it's a little bit more in depth, just like the question is, which is fantastic. So in my personal opinion, if you go back to the days of Sir David Murray, when money didn't seem to be an object in buying players, we learned a big lesson then, that overspending can land the club in a whole lot of debt. We obviously know that, right?
Yeah.
And basically, you seen where that got us. So we just have to be a little bit more sensible in what we spend, because the good times will come back, and we can buy a decent player at a decent price and mold them into a great player. So that's kind of my opinion on that one. But I love the whole in-depth of that question, and I really appreciated it.
Absolutely. I'm going to say, well, Warren, it's a great question. And do you know what? I think it takes, I'll do my best to answer it as fully as I can now. But I think, again, it's a kind of whole video on its own, that one, in terms of talking about, money, in terms of talking about what's coming in, what's going out of the club. I think, as Victoria said, when Sir David Murray was in charge of the club, we could buy who we wanted. We could have who we wanted. Money would never seem to be an object. And we know you go through the days, like I said, that I've mentioned earlier, the late 80s, early 90s, when Graham Souness was bringing in all that talent. And then you had the days of Laudrup, of Alberts, of Gaza, the De Boer brothers, Lorenzo Amoruso. I could name loads more, but I'd be here all night doing it. We spent so much money, and I think we landed the club in a lot of financial problems. Now, the problem we've got in Scotland at the moment is the fact that the TV deal is hugely, hugely disadvantageous for us as a nation. We just don't take enough money. The guy who negotiated the TV deal for the SFA and whatever, it's a joke. I mean, it's an absolute joke, the TV deal, the amount of money that Scotland get. Unfortunately, the Scottish product isn't a great product, and the league needs to be reformed because, as I was listening to a podcast the other day, I think it was Club Deck or it was David Edgar, I think, was talking, and he was saying that, he was our guest on there, and he was saying that some players don't want to come and play Motherwell 4 times. They don't want to come and play Aberdeen 4 times. They don't want to come and even play Celtic 4 times. They don't see this our league as been an attractive proposition. So the problem is the money just isn't in Scottish football at this moment in time. So as a club, we can't place ourselves unless we have an owner that is like a sheikh, or like you see in France with PSG, or in Germany with the Red Bull guys that own RB Leipzig, or one of those that are prepared to just spend a lot of money. We're just not in a position anymore to go out and spend millions and millions. And I think, unfortunately, Warren, look, I'll be the first to admit, I'd love us to go out and spend money right, left, and centre. Go out and pay 20 million for this player, 15 million for that player, 30 million for this player, and then smash that lot out of the ballpark. But there just isn't the money there, and the club can only, unfortunately, spend what it brings in now. We don't want to be back in a position like in 2012 where we get kicked out of the league because of our financial problems. We need to be in a strong financial position going forward. Now, 2-3 years down the line, I think you've got a situation where we could be in a good position to compete again and spend big money on players, because hopefully Champions League money coming in, league titles obviously bringing more prize money. You've got that situation, but at this moment in time, the club has had to rebuild, massively rebuild, hasn't it? And we're still rebuilding, really, from 2012. I know we won the 55, and we had that Europa League when we won the Scottish Cup, but we haven't won a great deal in that time. And I think we've had to play a lot of catch up with that lot from across the city, and we've had to try and bring in money to the club, balance the club. And I think there's got to be a way of balancing the budget, because we just can't afford to put ourselves at risk anymore. And we don't want to be in the same position as 2012. Like I said, it's a difficult question to answer here and now, because I think it is a whole video on its own. But Scottish football, unfortunately, has changed. Our financial position as a club has changed. Yes, we are one of the biggest clubs in world football, but unfortunately, we don't get revenue in the same way that Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool do. We're not in that position at this moment in time. Who's to say 5 years down the line we won't be? But unfortunately, I think we are a club that has to live within its means. And we are still repaying COVID as well. I think a lot of clubs that are not financially like the EPL clubs that have millions, COVID barely touched them because of the amount of money they've got. Whereas in Scotland, we didn't have that funds. We're still repaying the COVID thing. We had a season where we brought in hardly any revenue, of no ticket sales, no entertainment sales during games, etc., etc. So we are in a position where we are having to rebuild, and that's a complete rabble, I know, but it's difficult to answer, isn't it, Victoria? I think in a short form, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, because you know what, when you think about it, every football club out there wants to be the best club in the world, is what they say. And to me, like, when I look back at years and years ago, and I still think so now, that we are the best football club in the world, but there's always that building going on. There's always a way to get better, to get back to where we used to be. And you know what? That will come. That day will come. But it's a progress. like everything else is. And then when that day comes, you still have to go up the ladder. You still have to get better and better every single time. So like we spoke about earlier, you can eventually bring in those multi-million-dollar players that are going to come into your team. So I found it very interesting. Warren's question, do we need far richer owners?
Yeah.
It's like what you said earlier, like if we don't have somebody that's putting a heck of a lot of money, and I mean like the Saudis, let's say, putting that much money into Rangers, of course it's difficult. But you also want an owner that isn't just there for the money. You want an owner that also gets it. Because we're all about the history of Rangers. Sure, it'd be great to have someone come in and flash a check and say, here you go. But then do you also want somebody that doesn't really care? You want somebody that's also in it, right? So that's just my opinion on that question there from not Owen, Warren. There it is. You're Owen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got someone saying hello from hello Victoria, and Owen from Calgary, Alberta. Stuart Liddell. Do you know Stuart, Victoria?
You know what? I might have met Stuart. Maybe he was in Calgary when I was there a couple of years ago. Are you enjoying the Stampede? I know that's on right now down in Calgary, which is fantastic. I wanted to make it out so bad, but I haven't been able to, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So, we've got a few comments as well, just to quickly go over. I love this comment from Stuart here. He says, don't want players like that at our famous club. We've got to give 110% blood, guts and everything. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
You can have mercenaries that just going to come for the money. But yeah, I agree. We do need players that will give absolutely everything. RFC 56, obviously, saying about we're losing people. We'll be losing people from that 55 squad that were his heroes, Kamara, Kent, Goldson, for example. Stuart says obviously about the Football Club World Cup money could be up to 25 million. Daniel Frew says both Rangers and Celtic would make more money on a pay-per-view service. Sky deal is rotten. The Sky deal is rotten for Scotland. It's not a good deal, but I think it's also down to the fact the product that is out there on the field is not great. I mean, I suggested the other day that we go to one big league of 18 teams by incorporating more of the championship teams, and then everyone plays each other twice rather than 4 times, because I think the problem is you naturally get a situation where Rangers and Celtic are obviously the most powerful teams in Scotland, and teams come across us 4 times a season. Well, not every team, but the teams that post-split come across us 4 times, and we beat them 4 times because that's just the way it is. So you don't get teams coming up and having perhaps money to compete or being able to pull in better players because they say, well, there's no point. If you're not Rangers or Celtic, what's the point? So perhaps a bigger league where you play each other twice might be a better bet. I mean, I know that's certainly something Michael Beale has suggested. Could be something, going forward that definitely the way we could be looking at it. Sean Maxwell says we must challenge for the title. Celtic have been dominating Scottish football for too long. Stuart Henderson says COVID happened at the wrong time for Rangers. I think it did. I think it happened at the wrong time for a lot of teams, to be honest with you. With you, absolutely. What's that? So lots of the comments. Just quickly flicking through these comments, trying to find any other ones. We've got Stuart Henderson, a bit of a reference to an old song here. Streaming killed the PBV star. Lol. Pay-per-view. Is it radio? Was it video killed the radio star? I think that's a song from before your time, Victoria. I think.
You know what? I actually remember it, and I don't know if you guys think, but Owen, if you want to sing it for us, I mean, feel free to.
Do you know
Maybe
what?
it'll get our legs up.
I don't even remember. I don't even actually remember the song. The only time I actually remember that song is from playing Grand Theft Auto when I was a kid. Bit of a flashback to that. Misspent youth. Blue Nose John says we need to stop them overtaking our trophy hall. That takes serious investment. If we have a good season and anyone coming in with big bids for our players, we will sell, not to make the same mistake. Again, that is the trading model. Yeah, I think that the situation, is very much, we are a club that has to live by its means now. And look, like I said, I'd love us to be in a position to go out and compete with the top English clubs, compete with the top English clubs for players. But just at this moment in time, it can't happen. And just to respond to Warren's question about far richer owners, yeah, look, we'd all love a sheikh. If that's the right thing, a sheikh, wouldn't we? Someone from Qatar or from Saudi or from Kuwait to come in and just pump money into the club, like the I don't know where they can't remember where they come from now, but the guys who own PSG, or the Saudis at Newcastle now, or the UAE guys at Manchester City, who just seem to have a bottomless pit of money that never ever ends. The oil money, so on and so forth. Hulkster says I'm showing my age, apparently.
It's okay. We love a bit of karaoke on here.
I'm not going to sing. So, guys, obviously, thank you so much to everyone. Obviously, great questions in the live chat tonight. Victoria, what are your final thoughts to close us out tonight?
So I have a little final thought, and I was checking up on the chat here that I have, and I didn't see it pop up, but I just wanted to make a note. We have Cami K there, who was kind enough to gift 5 Glasgow Rangers Nation memberships for people. So we really appreciate that, Cami. That's absolutely amazing, and I'm sure people will really appreciate it. I'm just I have my phone in front of me here, so I'm also reviewing it, but I didn't see it pop up on the screen here. I don't know if
I didn't actually.
we'll have to check into that. But yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Make sure to grab those membership, guys. Give Cami K a little shout out. And you know what? I always love doing this. I love talking to you, Owen. I love talking to you guys as well. I met one of you guys on the weekend, which was really nice. Got to come up to me and asked, "Are you Victoria from Glasgow Rangers Nation?" I said I am, and we got to have a nice little chat together about the up and coming season and everything. So I always really appreciate it. And you know what? This is going to be our season. We have nothing but to win. That's in my opinion. So I know it's always a little bit iffy thinking about the new players, how they're going to do, but I think everybody knows what's at stake. And I can't wait for football to come back. I know we've got some really exciting things coming up, some exciting announcements. So I'm excited to enjoy that with you guys, and as well with Owen. I really appreciate you coming on. I know we're like 5 hours of a time difference or something like that. Yeah. So it's always nice to be able to work with you, taking time out of your day. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Victoria, for obviously, I know it's the middle of your day over there, so thank you so much for obviously, letting this obviously take part of your day away. It's absolutely fantastic to have you here and have you on the channel. Now, just one final thought for me. I mean, obviously, I am exceptionally excited for the start of the season, looking forward as well to those pre-season fixtures upcoming against Newcastle, against Hamburg, against Olympiacos, and against Hoffenheim. I think I remembered them all there. So fantastic. But just for me, I just want to say, guys, the support that we get from you is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The way this channel has grown in the last, since February. Well, since I launched it, I launched the channel on February the 24th this year. The growth has been astounding, and I've been absolutely blown away by it. Like I said, I used to work for American streaming services and American channels over in the States, and some pretty big ones in terms of the NFL and Steelers. But the support you guys are giving is just unbelievable. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away by it, and so grateful. I mean, we're on 2,348 subscribers now, which is a phenomenal number. And one of the things that makes it for me is your chat, is your comments in the live chat, but not just your comments in the live chat, your comments, your questions that you give to all the videos and the content that we put out. I always take time to try and respond to every single comment that you make. And virtually, all my break times at work are taken up by responding to comments. That's what I do during my breaks at work, is take time to respond to comments. But it's absolutely phenomenal, guys, the support you've given us. I just can't say a big enough thank you to that. And that's why, as Victoria and I were discussing before we came on air, that's why we're committed to bringing you free content, free to air here on YouTube. Now, I know YouTube take about 30% of our revenue. That's just how it works out. They've got to take some money, obviously, to keep their business going, and I understand that. But we're not going to charge you for content. We're not going to ask you to pay for the content, because for me as a fan, I want to share my love for the club and also what I find out about the club with you guys in the live chat, you guys who watch our videos. And to me, if I start charging, that kind of defeats the purpose for that. At the end of the day, I want this channel to be, like I always say, by the fans, for the fans. And that's what we do it. So that's why we do it. And that's why we will continue to do that for you, you guys. But thank you so much for all your support. Been absolutely fantastic. And you know what's really great as well, Victoria? Seeing so many new names that come into the live chat every podcast we do, it's brilliant, isn't it?
I absolutely love it. You know what? We talk about the Rangers family, and growing the Rangers family. That's something that I love about this channel. You mentioned it before. We're not any of those, we're not going to make it a paying service. We are fans of the Rangers, and we do this for other fans of the Rangers. And seeing different names come up that I've never seen before is always nice to interact with different people, get their opinions, and just talk about something that we all love, and that is the Glasgow Rangers. So thank you to each and every one of you for basically coming on, taking time out of your day, wherever you're watching from. And it's always nice to hear from people from other places in Canada, like Alberta, people from back home in Scotland. And this is like one big family. And you know what? We're always here for you guys. We know that you're also here for us. So we can't wait to see what this channel does, especially like a year from now.
Yeah.
Seeing this channel grow over time. I mean, I'm so honored that Owen was so kind to ask me to join him on this adventure. And I'm very, very excited what the future has to hold for us.
Absolutely, 100%. Me too. 100% looking forward
Yeah.
to the next few years and how we grow the channel. And we've got a lot of exciting ideas coming up, guys. A lot of exciting ideas. But I'm going to finish it off now. Get a bit long in the tooth. So, guys, 2 things that I always need you to do for me. I always need to do. Number 1 for me is smash that like, please. Do that for me. And the second thing I need you to do for me, always remember something from me. Always remember we are the people.